Good afternoon, Descendants, and welcome to a new project. I know I've started many new projects, but bear with me. They will all be finished. Sometime. This is a fan-written story, all written by a guy named DragonRand100 on a site called Archive of Our Own. I will link you to him and his story in the description. So, shall we begin? His novelization adaptation of The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time? I think we shall. So to start us off, here's an inscription. When the fates of gods and mortals intertwine, legends are born. Eternal darkness, sanity's requiem. Prologue. This is but one of the tales of which the people speak. A tale of an ancient land with verdant meadows, lush forests, and tall mountains. A land blessed by the goddesses, where the powers of light and shadow existed in perfect balance. This is the story of a king who sought to control the power of the goddesses themselves, and of a boy without a fairy. It is a tale that through generations became memory. With the turning of time's wheel, memory faded to legend, and even legend became a whisper riding upon the winds of time. Navi the fairy watched as a comet blazed across the heavens above her home. It streaked through the darkening sky high above the kingdom of Hyrule. Its tail spread far behind it, blazing like the curling tongue of a dragon's fire. It was near half the size of the moon, and just as bright. Those who lived beyond the forest viewed a comet as an omen of evil. Navi didn't understand why. It was nothing more than a star passing by on its journey through the heavens and into the realms beyond. Yet, amidst the populace of Hyrule, it was a messenger of the gods, a bringer of dark tidings. Navi wasn't surprised by this. Her leafy abode, the Lost Woods, inspired just as much fear as the star blazing across the starlit sky, so much so that most people wouldn't dare go near it. To the Gerudo, who heralded from the desert in Hyrule's west, the forest was a place of shadows, where the trees grew thick and their heavy boughs intertwined, blotting out the sun. To the highlands, it was a place of mystery, where monsters lurked and the spirits of old roamed, guarding their sacred groves. But to Navi, her people, and the Kokiri folk, the forest was home. The Kokiri were legend amongst the people of Hyrule, and their existence was a subject of sometimes heated debate amongst the Hylian scholars. No one in living memory had actually seen one, for they were no one in living memory had actually seen one, for they were a timid folk. Many Hylians called them the children of the forest, as the oldest Kokiri looked to be no older than 12. Despite their youthful appearance, most of them wouldn't appreciate being called a child. And as dusk fell, the jubilant melody of their songs would hum through the ancient groves they called home. Each of their groves were presided over by a spirit that took the form of a Deku tree. The ancient Deku trees were said to have originated from cuttings of a tree found somewhere in the Lost Woods. Just like the Kokiri, they watched over their spirits seldom liked to be found. They could warp the minds of travelers, making them lost. More often than not, the unwitting trespassers were sent walking back to the edge of the woods, leaving the poor souls to wonder how on earth they ended up back where they came from. Most of the Deku trees were benevolent, but it was said that some would curse any Hylian who wandered too close to their homes. Navi's home was the oldest known of the ancient groves, and the most sacred. The Hylians called it the Kokiri Forest, since they knew of no other dwelling that those folk inhabited. It was home to the great Deku tree, the oldest of the tree spirits. It was said he created the Kokiri to tend to the forest, allowing them to spread to the other glens with the Lost Woods. If a Hylian somehow stumbled upon this grove, they would have thought the goddesses had made themselves their own secret garden. Visitors who found their way to the ancient glen of the Kokiri were greeted by vibrant hues of green, hanging vines, and moss-covered rocks. Ferns nestled along the banks of a small stream. Holly, hazel, honeysuckle, and bramble bushes adorned the edges of the glen, while sycamore, beech, and oak trees could be found scattered amidst the edges of the village and beyond. Perhaps the most breathtaking sight was the enormous Dekus, where many of the Kokiri made their homes.